Welcome back to Talking Wolves. We're here for a brand new match preview, another game for Wolves, and it's on the road this time against Brighton. A really tricky game for Wolves, but the big victory during the week over Crystal Palace gives us a little bit of hope now. I say a little bit of hope, a lot of hope of staying in the Premier League and still remaining as a Premier League club for next season. As always, guys, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Before we kick off as well, obviously going into next season, I want to up the content on Talking Wars. I want to make things bigger and better. So if there's any content ideas or any types of series or any topics that you'd like us to look at and talk about to do with Wolves a lot more, do let me know. And obviously there's going to be a chances for you guys, the viewers at home, to get much more involved in the channel for next season. So just keep your eyes peeled for that one. But Lopetegui's had his pre-match press conference today, full of praise for Brighton Hove Albion, who have had a really good season so far. Slowed down just that little bit over the last couple of months or so. Obviously, a defeat in the FA Cup semi-final, and as a team, we know how frustrating that can be with us being at Wembley and chucking it away against Watford a few years ago. But they've had a very good season so far and gaining lots of praise under De Zerbi right now. But Wolves will just be hoping to continue their form in the league. It was been a good win over Crystal Palace, but the away form just seems to be a little bit slower at the moment. You know, the game against Forest, the game against Leicester last weekend, Wolves started off really brightly, and I think that's probably how we're going to try and get the better of Brighton, is these early goals that somehow we've all of a sudden got the knack of scoring. You know, we did it against Brentford, we did it against obviously Palace, we did it against Leicester, so we've got to make sure we can try and do that again, and see what we can do against Brighton. It sounds like they've got a couple of injury issues, which Wolves can hopefully take advantage of, because I think a win here, that's it. I'm not sure mathematically, but Wolves will pretty much guaranteed 100% be safe, and be in a fantastic position. In regards to Lopetegui, no new injury concerns since his last pre-match press conference against Palace. So Neto, obviously, who had a nasty tackle towards the end of that game, sounds like he's okay to be part of the squad. There's players such as Ryan Aït-Nouri, Johnny, Jimenez, Boubacar Traoré, who's still really struggling to break back into the team. Aït-Nouri, since international duty, Boubacar Traoré after injury. Same with Jimenez, who's really been just left out. Johnny, obviously, after suspension. So I don't think, I read an article, and I mentioned this on our most recent podcast. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. There's an article by Tom Phillips for the Express and Star last weekend, who said it's not necessarily about bad attitude with these players. It's just the work ethic. The players that are starting and are in the squad are just showing a hell of a lot more work and desire to break into that team, whereas the likes of Aït-Nouri and Jimenez are slightly more laid back. Obviously, we've seen the comments that Raul Jimenez's wife made, but that's a conversation for another time. But it's going to be interesting for Wolves now. You know, the job, it felt like after the Palace game, it felt like the job was done, but Lopetegui I'm hoping Lopetegui's getting into the players' heads that it's not done. I hope that we all of a sudden don't go sort of onto the beach and think, yeah, that's it, and we can relax and we have a really poor end to the season, because I think it's key now. I know we've got some tricky fixtures, but if we can get some sort of momentum between now and the end of the season to go into next year full of high morale and a lot more content around the fan base, I think that would be massive for Wolves anyway. My predicted lineup is no changes, to be honest. I think we could see it going away. Brighton obviously very good in terms of the midfield, so we could maybe drop an attacking player, but I think to drop Cunha or Diego Costa would be unfair to both of them. I think they're both working well because they both work, because they're both on the pitch together, basically. I think the only downside, obviously, Diego Costa, after sort of 60-65 minutes, you need a like-for-like replacement, and if Jimenez isn't in the squad, you haven't really got that. I think the back four probably picks itself after the performance against Palace. I think they all deserve to be in there. I think Bueno, it was great to see him come back into the team. Kilman and Dawson have really kicked on together, and Nelson Tomato actually thought had a pretty decent performance. Neves again had a really top performance. I do feel a little bit for João Gomez. You could possibly see him come back into it, but like I said, you would have to drop an attacking player in there. Hwang gets the nod for me, just because I think Lopetegui just about, prefers him over some of the other options. But again, you could easily see the likes of maybe Sarabia start, possibly even Podence get a start in there as well. But it's crazy to think, obviously the likes of Neto, Adama, there's so many talented players that are missing out for Wolves as of right now. But I'd probably say that's the team that I'd expect to see start on Saturday, if everyone is fit between now and then. And of course, before we move on, we have got the BetMate game. It's 2 Saturday 3 p.m. kickoffs to get involved in. I've actually gone quite Wolves heavy today. We've gone with Jose Sa in goal because even when he concedes goals, he gets a lot of save points on BetMate. So we've gone with him in there. Ethan Pinnock at the back. Hopefully Brentford do keep a clean sheet at home to Forest. Craig Dawson in there as well. I have gone with a Brighton midfield too, though. Mitoma, who I'm a big fan of so far this season. Saicedo as well. And with Ivan Toney up top and Mateus Cunha alongside him as well. So a link to join the Saturday 3 p.m. kickoffs is in the top of the description. Please do gamble aware, 18 plus and UK residents only. But I had the pleasure of speaking to a journalist and Brighton podcaster Tom Phillips to get his thoughts on Brighton so far and what we can expect from the Seagulls this weekend. So then, Tom, thank you very much for jumping on Talking Wolves. Brighton against Wolves this weekend. Wolves getting very close to safety now, but Brighton have still got a little bit to play for in the hunt for Europe. Fantastic season for Brighton, although things have slowed down a little bit over the last couple of months. But from your point of view and sort of throughout the Brighton fan base, how are the fans feeling so far about this season?
I think if you asked me that question before the Forest match, I think there would be a lot more optimism.
Yeah.
That defeat, I think, has really put a massive dent in our push for Europe. We still have it in our hands, I think. It probably more depends on how Spurs do. They've currently only won 1 in their last 5. They were humiliated against Newcastle. Don't know what they're going to be like against United. And that's when we're speaking on Thursday afternoon. Who knows what happens now? There's still a lot to play for. And it'll be interesting to see what happens next because we do have a couple of injury concerns with fatigues. We're tired after the FA Cup semi-finals. So there are a lot of things adding up that's going to test De Zerbi's tactical nuance and squad depth as well.
Yeah, you got some tricky games still to play as well. You obviously got United, you got Arsenal, you got City. So there's some tough games in there, but you've still got plenty of games in hand on teams sort of just slightly above you at the moment. Talking about, obviously, you mentioned the Forest game there. Brighton have been very good, consistent, got some great wins this season so far. But for you, what happened there? Because Forest are a team down there really, really struggling. What was the difference? Do you think it was almost just like a hangover over that semi-final defeat last weekend?
I think it is. I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. A very nasty cocktail of things not going our way, sadly. That we played a full 120 minutes at Wembley. We gave it our all, and it was a very physically demanding match. It wasn't exactly the most easy on the eye spectacle that many would have hoped, including ourselves. But it was just grueling, and United found ways to be very physical in that midfield. You would do when you have a player like Casemiro in the middle of the park there. And that just didn't help. That didn't help matters. Then we had to quickly recover and go to Forest. Now we didn't play with a wrecked striker. Danny Welbeck injury is a bit of a up in the air kind of moment, so he couldn't play full 90 minutes. We had Evan Ferguson, who is kind of like our wonder kid at the moment. Again, he's out for a prolonged period of time. We've got no recognised right back. Pascal Gross has dropped down there from someone who's usually a creative midfielder, is now playing right back. Kind of almost like a punishment from the time of him being so versatile under Graham Potter's days. And then, like, if you went there, I think you kind of appreciated that everything was going to go against us. Yeah, we saved the penalty. Yeah, we took the lead. But I'll tell you what, I said this on Twitter already, but I think I'm turning 30 in the summer, and I don't think I've ever experienced an away day where the home fans were so in sync. The atmosphere was just incredible at the City grounds. It only holds 28,000 or something along those lines, but
Yeah.
they're louder than Old Trafford. They're louder than Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Anfield, you always hear them rant and rave, but you never hear about the City grounds atmosphere. That really turned for us, especially when they got an equaliser just before half time. So when those things happen, all you need is Steve Cooper to just kind of motivate them and just go full gong how, which is exactly what they did. And it just hampered us, and we just didn't have any options or plan Bs or Cs going forward, which frustrated us even more.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of home games. We played them in the cup earlier this season, and I think there's no surprise really for why their home form is so good, because the atmosphere there is fantastic, obviously, and that's almost, the whole 12th man thing, I think, is really helping Forest out, especially in home games as well. But it's still going to be a really tricky test for Wolves this weekend. We've seen Lopetegui already have his press conference full of praise for Brighton, and you got some very talented footballers. Obviously, injury issues at the moment, but from the players that you feel will play a part on Saturday, who are the main players that Wolves should be looking out for?
I think the main thing will be the midfield, really. Alexis McAllister, World Cup winning midfielder, which for me, who has seen the likes of Charlie Oakway and Richard Carpenter in League One and, the old Division 2 and Division 3, it's bonkers to actually say that. Then you have Moises Caicedo, who seems to be going into the summer as the hot products in the summer transfer window. They've been formidable for us in the middle of the park, and they are so crucial to De Zerbi's tactical nuances, creating those half chances, those half spaces, and pulling in the midfielders so the defenders can play those balls up top a little bit more and just get that vertical tiki-taka, or whatever you want to call it nowadays, to really hit them on the counter. They will be the main ones. Of course, I've got to talk about one of our own, Lewis Dunk. The captain sets a standard every single time. I can't think of a time where he's been bad this season, or in actual fact, I don't think he's actually been that bad during the whole of the time we've been in the Premier League. He's just so consistent week in, week out. And then another person we've got to talk about is Solly March. I mean, he got pelters from Forest fans chanting, "We've seen you cry on the telly." And for someone who is not only a player of ours, but someone who grew up in Sussex, lived and breathed Sussex, he got scouted by Brighton twice before signing professional terms with the club. He's someone that we kind of really hold very close to our hearts for most of the time, and it's just fantastic to see him actually playing in the way that we know that he can play. I remember Glenn Murray saying in an interview, saying that how he frightens him Monday to Friday in the training ground and then frustrates him on the Saturday because it just doesn't translate at all. But to see him now, I think he's got about close to 20 goal involvements now this season, which is just a bit is unheard of when you look at his stats, and you just know that he's been De Zerbi's little side projects, and it's working wonders for us. So I'll be very interested to see the support that he's going to get the first time at the Amex since that cup semi-final.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you've got managers that sort of pick up teams, really talented managers, change the whole tactical look out on a team. And there's one player in particular that they almost just somehow get the best out of. I think in our case, when Nuno took over and he had Connor Cody who was playing central midfield, he played right back a little bit the season before, and then he's not had a great year this season, but Nuno transformed him into this sweeper who's broke into the international scene as well. So it is always enjoyable to see those sort of things as well. And sort of on the flip side, Tom, for you as a Brighton fan, looking at the Wolves squad, is there anyone that you look at in our squad that you think could cause you some trouble on Saturday?
I think it's the midfield for us. I think if we're going to get a bit worried and a bit concerned about what's on offer from you guys, I think it's just got to be a case of looking at the midfield. The way the midfield played at Forest, they very much suffocated us towards the end of the second half, and that just did not help us at all. And I think if Lopetegui goes into this and thinks I need to get a result here, I need to really push on, secure that survival, rather than it just lingering in the back of our minds.
Yeah.
That's the way you're going to set up. So I think your midfield is going to be our difficult one. It depends really. Just looking at that team, it's just like they've been there for quite a while. I think Ruben Neves is going to be the player for you. Neves and Lamina for me, because they're going to have a busy shift regardless. So they need to turn up. And I think someone like Ruben Neves' class, the guy who only ever scores bangers, he's going to be the one that might cause us a fair bit of a headache, whether that's getting on the score sheet or just frustrating that midfield. I think that's going to be the difference.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, sort of the term suffocating, because we've actually used that a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. Before the Leicester game last weekend, when Neves was suspended, we had Lamina in there with João Gomez, who did exactly that. They were suffocating the Chelsea and Brentford midfields, and that's what got us results. Neves came back in last weekend, and it was a little bit different, but he put in a very good performance against Palace during the week. So it'll be interesting to see. And Tom, to finish off, score prediction, what are you thinking?
Look, we got to get back to winning ways. But back-to-back defeats is not ideal. And when you look at our fixtures running into this, it's just going to be a case of now we're just thinking, where are we going to get these points from? Where are we going to frustrate Spurs going into this? I would love us to get a win. My heart says a Brighton win, 2-0 Brighton, but my head says a draw. I'm going 2-2.
Yeah, I think Wolves fans would probably take a point on the road. We've not been fantastic in terms of style of play and so on away from home. And very quickly, sorry to finish off, so Brighton, between now and the rest of the season, what's the aim for the fans to get Europe? Is it going to be a disappointment if they miss out?
Look, I think it's fair to say that this is the best season that we've had probably in our history, really, on paper. The fact that we're flirting with European football for so long this season is bonkers. And I think I just look back to that Spurs defeat when we were absolutely conned out of not just
I remember that,
a penalty, but 2 goals and another penalty as well. In my eyes, I don't understand how Howard Webb still apologised for just one incident. Really, it's mind boggling. And I'm a qualified ref myself, and I don't like to berate refs. I think it's not my kind of thing, but that really frustrates me. So there's been a fair few things that have gone our way, against us, and Wolves have had their fair share as well.
Sure.
This season alone. I would love nothing more than for us to secure Europe. I think it'll be something that we have deserved. But the old saying, the old cliche, the league table doesn't lie. So
Yeah.
we've got to fight. We've got to keep on fighting. But we've got injuries. We've got no weekend to weekend breaks. We've got games midweek now. We've got long journeys to Newcastle. We've got to deal with Arsenal and Manchester City, as well as welcoming back Manchester United next week on Thursday too. So there's a lot there for us. It's going to be full on. It's going to test our squad depth. Again, heart says European places. My head says I think we're just going to miss out, which will just break my heart. But still, what a season to be a part of.
Yeah, and I think De Zerbi, he's put, regardless of what happens, he's put the foundations down now for something where Brighton can really kick on, from next season onwards. And I think Graham Potter, who obviously we haven't really mentioned in this video, but he probably did the same sort of thing. I know De Zerbi's done a hell of a lot of good work, but Potter's still sort of got you in that sort of half decent position as well. So I think it's only onwards and upwards now for Brighton, mate. Tom, if people wish to check you out after this video, where's the best places they can do so?
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom J Phillips _ or you can follow us on the Teams Like Brighton podcast as well.
Perfect, mate. Thank you very much. And after Saturday, all the rest of the best of the season, mate.
You too, mate. Take care.
Cheers. So big thanks to Tom. I'll make sure to leave a link to him and his podcast in the description down below. And do let me know your thoughts, guys, ahead of this game. I would love to get something out of this game. I think a point would be a very decent result for Wolves, but part of me's got a feeling that we could nick all three, and if we do, I mean, let's get the Premier League table up here. We nick all 3 points. That takes us up to the magic 40-point mark, and I think we can definitely say Wolverhampton Wanderers will be staying in the Premier League. As always, be sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, guys. And until next time, I will catch you all very, very soon.